coming still. Oh, it's Elsa, perhaps.
She's allowed to be late.
Yes, and we have Olivia on stream. Okay. Let's start by closing our eyes. Make sure you're comfortable. And just notice what is here. Completely alert. Just look at what is here. Just allow whatever comes. There's thinking, just let the thoughts come. The bodies, if there is an experience of emotions or sensations in the body, just allow them to be expressed. You are here. No need to go with the thoughts. No need to follow the inner voice at its every twist and turn. You just stay, recognizing all of it. And initially, this can take some firmness. It can feel like you have to take a stance not to go into thoughts. clear decision to stay. To allow the expressions of emotion to happen. Be mindful of every step. To see how the mind tries to come into play. No more resisting or fixing. You just recognize what is. What is it that watches the experience? What is this attentive awareness, this alertness? Is there a center to it? Can it come closer? Is the watchfulness itself watchable? Who does this watchfulness belong to? Does it have a seat? Does it have a place? And if so, how can you be aware of that? What is watching that? What is this undefinable awareness? This aspect that cannot be thought of. This deep knowing that contains everything, but has no attributes. No features. It's not a thing. But still gives rise to the I am. Not the I am something, just the I am. If thoughts come, you ask, to whom does this thought arise? Look for the source. Look for the source of this I. The first expression of identity. When the experience becomes spacious, observing is easy. Thoughts are not personal. Nor is the body. It's just a phenomena among phenomena, playing out its transient nature, coming, staying for a while, gone. You don't have to hold on to anything. And at the same time, don't have to push anything away. If you don't resist the content in your experience, it will move, change, fall back into stillness. If a thought comes, you ask the question. You use the mind as a tool in this meditation, asking to whom does it arise? To whom does it matter? To whom does it have significance? And find that source. Find that I. You might at first have the sensation that it belongs to the body this I. That it is a phenomena in your consciousness. But the more you examine, the more you realize that it cannot be a phenomena, because every phenomena can be watched. Every phenomena is in this attentive awareness that does not seem to have a center, that does not seem to have a specific source. It just is. This reveals your essential nature. The first expression of I. And when you look for the I, you will always end up here. Perhaps not directly, perhaps not at once, but you will always end up in this awareness. And thoughts, however convincing, will not aid you in this. You have to ask if the thought is necessary. You don't have to be polite with them. You're allowed to discard them as uninteresting or not necessary. You don't have to deal or bargain with your mind at every turn. You're allowed to just be. The mind says all kinds of things. The ego has its agenda. It will try to give you tasks. It will give you a chance to prove yourself. All these kind of thoughts are just made to keep you in the ego's identification, to relate to it. You don't have to bargain with the ego. You can just stay as you are. You don't need to be fixed. You don't need to prove yourself to the ego. Being is enough. And love, or you might want to call it self-love, comes with beingness. and instead of a serious proving ground, your mind becomes quiet. No more battling. No more games. Take your time, slowly open your eyes. You can move your body if you like to, stretch out your legs. It's easy to go with the idea that this stillness is far away. That you're living your life and there's not much peace there. One situation to the next, one thought and then the next. But if you come back to it, if you every day have a reminder of this, it becomes natural and easy. And when the mind plays, you ask the question, to whom does this arise? And you find that source. You find that I. You find the I that is not there. All you find is the awareness that holds everything. In a sense, the not holding on. And that this becomes your home. Babaji called it the empty house. When the thieves comes and want to steal you away, there's nothing. When the ego comes, try to sell you things, there's no one to sell it to. There's just a thought happening and go. And the ego feeds on this dynamic. So when there is nothing, no one that buys, when you don't create the idea of an entity that relates to that thought will subside. It's very simple. That is how the mind becomes quiet. And since most people sometimes buy their thoughts and sometimes don't, it might take some time. But the more you stay as you are, and the mind can do its play. If you don't happen with it, if you don't create the I that comes with every thought, they will subside. And it's nice if you believe my words, but it's nicer if you try them in practice. What happens to a mind that does not buy into thoughts? Where do you arrive at? And perhaps this place, as soon as you try to name it, it becomes something. it becomes something else. So you say, I'd rather keep it nameless. Because it is just something that is an inherent quality of the experience. It cannot be thought of. Because the thinking of it arises in it. It's always prior to thoughts. And the mind is so used to making concepts, understanding things, holding them as a concept, coming back to them as a concept. That's usually why most people don't realize how they lose their meditation. They have a very steady practice, they like it a lot, they enjoy the quiet, and then suddenly it's lost. Oh, I was meditating 2 months ago. What happened with that? Because the mind just, in its unawareness, can just take over again. And it goes somewhere, believes that something is important. But if this fire, if this spark has started in you at some point, it's usually not possible to stop. It will always come back. You can say for a while that you're not interested or you're too busy with other things. And then the longing of the heart comes back. And the mind can say, I need more motivation, I need more inspiration, I need to be more disciplined, I need to be happier, a better person before I can take this on. That is just the mind stalling. You are perfect. In all your imperfection, you are perfect. With all your distractions, with all your ideas, with all the ignorance, perfect. With all the arrogance, perfect. Because the biggest quality is not that you are super spiritually inclined or that you are in some kind of state, or it's just your sincerity. It has nothing to do with what you've been through or how you consider yourself as a person, or it's just your sincerity to be honest with that, to be with it as it is. Everyone has gone through things. Everyone has been not nice at some point. Not their best self. That does not disqualify you from being. I understand that what we're talking about can be perceived as that you need some kind of perfect state where the mind is quiet and very peaceful, and the mind imagines all these things that are needed. But actually, brutal honesty with yourself is the sharpest sword. It just cuts through all the bullshit, everything. If you can say, okay, I see what I'm up to. I'm just trying to be loved, and it has all these expressions. So few people are honest like that. That you expose your motivation in life. instead of going into all the details, you cut to the core and say, oh, I just feel dissatisfied and want to be loved. This seems to be the motivation in all I do. Okay, let's look at it. Because that is the only possibility to be in acceptance of what is. Because how can you look at something when your eyes is always colored by a lie? And you will ask, why does not anything happen in my meditation, my practice? And usually it's just that the place that you're coming from is not honest. It's so common, if you have read a lot of books on Vedanta and on duality and heard a lot of talks, that you have an idea where you are. That there is some kind of progression and that you are, I've been doing this for 10 years now. I must be about here. Instead of looking for what is. And that is enough to just create an obstacle. To create a little lie of, here's where I am. And when you get used to just looking beyond the surface of things, looking beyond what you say and looking at the motivation of it, looking at the core, and as soon as you inquire, you start to, okay, where's this coming from? This is coming from the idea of a person who wants something. This desire to be loved, for example. And you look for the source of it, and you find, perhaps you see, for a flash, you see a wounded child in that, but there's, at the core of that, always just awareness. Because the idea of the person in time is also an idea. And I'm not saying that as a philosophical experiment. I am saying that because I want you to look. Look and see if that person you believe in, the one that is a sister or brother or daughter or son or parent or whatever preferences you have for it or idea you have of it, is that really the core of you? What are you? Are you your name? It has been given. Are you the ideas of your person? No. That has come. It is not original. It's an add-on. So what is original? What's at the core if you don't touch thought? It's not an impossible experiment. It is very, very accessible. And I know that some traditions talk about these kind of relating to the experience as very advanced meditation. But what is advanced with being? I don't understand that. It is just at the core of the experience. There's nothing advanced with it. You don't have to be super intellectual or a scientist or super smart, good at mathematics or anything like that. You can just look. Everyone can look. If you just have the interest and the honesty with it and want to be honest with your experience, you can look. It's not super easy to do it. It's not the most pleasurable. If your mind is mainly about the distraction, it won't what it naturally goes to. But it's not impossible. It's not advanced like that. It is here. We meet like this to really look at it. I don't talk about anything else. I only talk about this. This is all we look at. And I don't have a vast, it's not a very vast subject in that way. I always point to the same thing. If you've been with me for a while, you realize. And you will notice if you really become honest with it and go for it, you will also notice that the ego will resist. It will not like it because it's not in its domain anymore. You're not doing things that has that continuing drama that the ego likes, the story that's always gonna continue. Suddenly there is a full embrace of the moment. This is the worst environment for the ego. The full embrace of the moment as it is. To say really wholehearted, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And the embrace of everything in that. That is the worst environment for the ego. Because it wants a little, yes, I feel grateful, but that's how the ego works. It wants some continuation. It wants something that, yes, but something needs to be fixed. Something needs to be, it cannot be so embracing. It cannot be so loving. And there is no continuation for the ego in it. That's why it's called peace. Is there any questions today?
You mentioned something about the empty house, and you said something about the source that I didn't hear.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
It is a famous quote of Papaji. He said something like, "Thieves have nothing to steal in an empty house."
And who said that again?
Papaji, which is one of the most famous students of Ramana Maharshi, and a great teacher. He talked like that just to emphasize that you have to carry the idea of the person. Otherwise, that is what makes thought stick.
Mm.
If someone says something abusive to you, says something nasty to you, But and something you probably had this experience, and you just had a feeling that they just have a really shitty day, or the sense that, oh, that person, that really stings. Yes, because the identity is that what creates that. There has to be a someone who takes it, who makes a bargain with the thought. And that's why I say also things like you don't have to be so nice to your thoughts. Many people bargain with their thoughts all the time. They reason with them and they have to prove things to their thoughts. There's a whole game of that. And sometimes we're very polite with our thinking and think that we have to be on such a good terms with it. But if you look at the thoughts, they're not so nice. They usually say, oh, so you should go and do that. Talk to that person. And you talk to that person, it's a terrible meeting, and then it says, you shouldn't have done that. It just plays you so much. It just wants like the engagement and the power of continuation. We have put the ego and the thoughts of the ego so high on a pedestal that we bow down to it. Always. Whatever it says. If it says it's a good day, it's a good day. If it says it's a bad day, it's a bad day. Then this is right, this is wrong, It plays all this. And the more the silence becomes prominent, the more clear it becomes that is just a lot of noise on the surface. That there is a much stronger intuitive sense, which should not be confused with just going with your emotional content, very impossibly, that some people call their intuition. Intuition comes from deep silence. It just shows things from the silence. When the mind becomes quiet, those things come. And at first it can feel like there's like a magical power that drives you through your life, that can make the strangest decisions that just feels like a yes. And when you dare to follow them, you just notice that it's very spacious, very big, and not to be confused with just going, like some people say, with their gut feeling, which is usually just going with their pain body. Takes time. And it's much more clear. It's not so much, the mind is always so muddy. I don't know if you can understand that, but the mind is very often just going with things very, it can seem clear on a rational level. The most efficient thing to do, the best from what I know about this information is very pragmatic and very stiff in its assessment. It doesn't go for playful or spacious or these kind of qualities. It goes for very, it would say what is best from an economical standpoint or from an efficiency perspective, or then I don't have to do so much. And then you but wait, I like that doing a lot. So it can be completely counterintuitive to and I think the ideas of the ego is very much also a reflection of how education works in our society, and the feeling, at least that I had in school, that it was always better to be in the next grade. You always wanted to progress. There's always something at the end. And it's a bit strange when you end school ends, because, okay, now what? Now I'm not in this system anymore where there is another step, okay? So maybe you can do the same thing in your work life. And many people go to work for a big company and you can be promoted and slowly going. And it's like the same game, that life is always going to be better at some goal. And most people don't even reflect that this is happening. And this is what I call that I talked about yesterday also, the trap of hope. It's always going to be better later. Because it's also, how will you be a productive member of society if you just enjoy the moment as it is? Because suddenly you're not driven by fear. You're driven by love. It will be harder to sell you things. It will be harder to get you to do things that you don't like to do. Because you will be content. So the best people are, in a way, from a societal point of view, the worst people. But they will also, it will also automatically be if that would be an overwhelming amount of people, it would be a very, very big shift in how we do things. But as long as we believe in the progressive continuation of things and efficiency, we get the society that people believe in. And there are so many ways. There are so many ways to be unhappy. They're presented all the time. You can be unhappy like this, or you can be unhappy like that. You can feel dissatisfied like this. Oh, look at these things that you can crave. You can feel, you want some more dissatisfaction? You will feel more lack. So you just allow your house to be empty and see what happens. What is it that makes your mind spacious? What creates the gaps? And if you watch your mind, you see all the things that keep you busy. See all the things that occupy you, that you can't let go of, that just continues and continues. And ask yourself if you need them. What am I without this? And with some of the things, you might even feel sadness of letting them go. Because you have so much relation to that kind of thought. And to the mind, to the ego, it feels like it leaves nothing behind. And that is correct. There is just space. But this space is not a nothing in that sense. It's from the ego's point of view, it's super boring, no drama. Not enough things going on. But from your experiential point of view, it is beautiful. It makes the possibility of the intuitive sense to show you, to life itself to play very naturally, for love to be expressed. to show you that you are the source. And that life can be so intimate, beautiful, so much quality. Someone else? The question of what happiness is goes so deep, because it's often so connected to behaviors. It's often so connected to wanting to project the image of happiness. There's so many people that are more concerned with seeming happy than being happy. In the way they present themselves, the way they present their lives. Because that gives the sense of happiness. And the ones who are interested in being happy don't make much fuss about it. So when people look online, for example, and wonder if they have some self-awareness why they only see pain, is because that is what most people who are reactive express. And they have incitament to do it. What does the person who is content do? Does that person have to prove on Instagram how content they are? That is not the quality of contentment. this, I think, is how it has to be. That the one who is content will just be content. And everyone else stirs around their karma until they see what happens. It has to be suffered and all that, and seen. So find out what real happiness is. Whatever the question comes from will be your path. Perhaps you want to understand what is violence. And if you go with violence to its core, you will find the truth of non-duality. And it's the same if you look for happiness. When I started with meditation and I read a lot of texts about it, I thought that there were so many different perspectives in different ways. Now, I don't see different ways anymore. I see that everyone is on the same, if you want to call it journey, but they're on some kind of path towards beingness. You can call it whatever you want. The religions call it by different names and different gods and all that. But it's all the same. We're so similar, and we need so similar things. We look for happiness in 1,000 ways, but it always leads to the same source. At a certain point, however much you look for happiness in phenomena, you will notice, okay, it's not there. It's not in substances, it's not in achievements, it's not in material things. Cannot satisfy this thirst. The suffering that feels like it is not enough as it is, or that you feel dissatisfied, is the feeling of incompleteness. Many people try to satisfy that through different things. They have their ideas of what this completeness needs to be complete. And it can be the right partner, or the right kind of life, or the right people around you, or a perfect situation, or something. But if there is no contentment, and that you don't, if you see the world as external, you will look forever. Ramana Maharshi said it beautifully. He said, it's not wrong to look for happiness. The only mistake is to look for it outside when it is inside. And that's usually the biggest hindrance. at first it feels like you have to come back to beingness, like that you have to make some effort. And then at the point, there will just be beingness. And the one making the effort does not feel so significant in it. It's no longer a personal endeavor. It's more a bracing of what is. And up to that point, you might have a feeling that you are doing your life somehow. And beyond that point, you start to feel life is just happening. If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. If it's not gonna happen, it's not gonna happen. It's just unfolding. And that relaxation into beingness creates so much peace. And you don't confuse it in your mind anymore. You don't have a belief that it will rob you from taking responsibility in situations, or that will just happen as it happens. And if the mind is spacious and filled with love and empathy, it's very, very simple to do those things. To care for the personal is not so important. It becomes a universal care. It becomes serving. Any questions before we sing? No? Perfectly clear. Very good. You have one?
I guess my question is kind of like reconciling, like you talked a little bit about like what it feels like to move from this place of like non-doership, of like that there's just a feeling of yes and you don't know why, but like that is where I must go to, or like there's just a sense that like there's no struggle over like figuring out the right path. It's just and I guess I was wondering, like, if that is the case, and it seems like it's the case for me, for other people to not live following that, to maybe feel that on some level, but to not trust that or not follow that. And then in that case, I would imagine there to be some underlying sense of dissatisfaction, of like something, their true essence is like calling in a certain direction and they're not going in that direction. And with that sense of dissatisfaction, I guess like what to do with that, if you just are like learn how to just be in that dissatisfaction. I don't know exactly what my question is, but
find the source of the one who is dissatisfied. See where it comes from. who is the one who is not happy with the choices, or that is too much meddling with making a choice, or that everything feels very muddy and unclear? Who is that one? Because the whole sense of that dissatisfaction had to be connected to that idea of the person. And I know that it is difficult to see that one, because we usually just assume that we are that. That's what we're looking at the world from. That's where your question comes from. How do I manage this? Who is managing what? Who is the source? Who is the manager of your experience? Does that entity really have any merit? Or is it just believed in automatically because it feels normal? Who does the dissatisfaction belong to? Who has a situation of dissatisfaction? Who is the one in that house that can have that sense of satisfaction being robbed? Because otherwise the questions will come forever. How do I fix this? How do I improve? How do I better? The mind can go on like that forever. It just wants to continue. It just wants to burp up repetitive things, trying again and again, trying this method, that strategy, this strategy. But at the core of it is always the belief of the person. You have to believe that you are something first. To find out.
That's what I thought.
Everyone good? Jai Mata Kali, Jai Mata Durga, Jai Mata Kali, Jai Mata Durga, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Jai Mata Mata Kali, Jaya Mata Durga, Jaya Mata Kali, Jaya Mata Durga, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah. Jaya Mata Kali, Jaya Mata Durga, Jaya Mata Kali, Jaya Mata Durga, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah. Jaya Mata Kali, Jaya Mata Durga, Jaya Mata Kali, Jaya Mata Durga, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah. Jaya Mata Kali, Jaya Mata Durga, Jaya Mata Kali, Jaya Mata Durga, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah. Jaya Mata Kali, Jaya Mata Durga, Jaya Mata Kali, Jaya Mata Durga, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah. May everyone find peace. May everyone come back to that awareness that is the source, that is you. May everyone find the peace and bliss that is inherent in every moment. May you stay in the light of awareness and see all ignorance and arrogance burn. and find true peace, true happiness. Om Shanti Shanti.